So, if you guys are just joining me on any of the other platforms, I want to make sure I get through any questions today. Popping in and out for me here. So I got a question coming up from Quentin, who says he's supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, even though the sound of it is something quite atrocious. How about you, Benny? I'm doing pretty good. Let me get the chat up here so you guys can see that. I'm keeping very, very busy. I've been investigating various live streaming ways of using languages. And last weekend I was... here we go. Last weekend I was at a conference specifically for that. It was a lot of fun, actually. Okay, so I wanted to have a chat with you guys today about language learning in relation to the Irish language. I wanted to answer any questions you guys had about Irish culture, because I hear a lot of stereotypes and people don't really know much about Ireland from my experience as I've travelled. So I figured that, like for instance, people, when I say I speak Irish, people are surprised and they'll tell me that they presume I mean the Irish English. So, hold on a second. Getting these comments back. So if they presume I mean Irish English, when Irish is the language we speak in Ireland, that is part of the Gaelic family. And I learned this language when I was growing up, and it's not necessarily a hard language, but it is a language that we have a very complicated history with. So essentially, we learn this language in school. Here we go. Sorry I wasn't seeing your comments up to now. We learn this language in school, and when I was in school, we learned it in a very grammatical way. So that was unfortunate. It didn't give us enough of the culture. Fortunately, that has changed in recent years, and it's a lot more about using language socially. So this is a great thing that we get to do, especially nowadays, thanks to TV and radio. You guys will see I gave a recent uploaded a recent video about how there are 9 main reasons. I went with 9 because that's what Lindsay from Lindsay Does Languages. She usually goes with 9 in her series, so I went with that in the video. So let me get into the questions now. If I'm not seeing any questions on my screen, today's moderator, Holly, is going to be sharing them with me privately. So I will try to get to everything that way. And thanks everyone for stopping in and checking this out. Here we go. So Katarina says, is it easy to learn the Irish language and the beautiful accent? Okay. So the Irish language is interesting because it has a lot of things going for it that make it easier than a lot of other languages. So for instance, there are only really 12 irregular verbs. Now, if you're learning English, there are hundreds or thousands of irregular verbs, depending on how you count them. And if you're learning even like French and Spanish, it becomes a part of the process, learning those irregular verbs. Irish just has 12. So that's an easy thing about Irish. And if you want to learn the accent, then that the learning the language will help you a lot with that. So, for instance, we have this thing in Irish where we don't like to end a word in hard consonants, and it makes the language sound softer. This is something I've seen in Romance languages as well. That's why a lot of Spanish words end in O or A. Whereas in English, you could say cat, and like we don't tend to do that in Ireland. We would soften them up. So instead of saying cat like that, I would say cat, and that has that sh sound that kind of softens it. So you can mimic some of these, but otherwise, if you learn English in Ireland, you're likely to pick up the accent that way. Okay, so Kate SH on YouTube asks, where do people speak Irish English and where do they speak the Irish language? Okay, good question. So, let me see if I can get these YouTube comments to come back up. Here we go. Yeah. So, if you are in Ireland, essentially what we speak all the time is Irish English. It's our dialect of English. So it's like, I don't know, halfway between British English and American English. In terms of, we'll use a lot of the words from British English, but we don't have the R at the end of words cut off like them. So in that way, it sounds a bit more like the American English. My accent's been watered down a lot because I've traveled to many places over the years. And so you will find Irish English spoken all over the country. We have different accents and different twangs and dialects that we speak of Irish English, or more technically Hiberno English. So you'll find that all over Ireland. If you check out any YouTube channels or live streaming TV or radio from Ireland, and there's plenty of them, you'll hear Irish English. But the Irish language, or Gaeilge, that is trickier. That is something you are more likely to hear in the regions called the Gaeltacht. So you could see behind me, this is a picture that I took in Donegal, and it's of the coastline near Glencolmkill, which is this lovely, lovely village on the coast of Donegal. And it's a place where they all speak Irish. And I believe, I'm not 100% clear on the way it works, but I believe you're not allowed to live in the Gaeltacht regions unless you can demonstrate that you speak the language. So this way, they keep those regions as maintaining the language. So if you go to those parts of the country, strongest ones would be in Donegal, in Galway, and in Cork. And there are other parts of the country that have Irish spoken. If you go there, you will hear the language, you'll be able to practice it, and maybe get some immersion. And the easiest way is if you join an adult language learning course, because they tend to kind of ease you in, and then you get momentum from there. You'll hear it spoken in other parts of the country, though. So I know in my hometown, Cavan, we actually have, I think it's weekly, depending on the time of the year, we have weekly Irish speaker meetups in the Farnham Arms Hotel. So people go there and they get to practice their Irish with one another. Usually local libraries talk about this. And then there are even some parts of cities that might be more likely to speak Irish. So you're going to hear it in a lot of places. It just depends on how actively you're looking for it. Otherwise, of course, as I mentioned in the video I uploaded just a few hours ago on my YouTube channel, there's loads of live streaming radio and TV shows that you can watch from anywhere in the world online. So those are ways to get exposure to the Irish language. Hope that answers your question, Kate. Okay, and Sheila on Facebook asks, people in the US call anything that is Celtic Gaelic, but it's really Irish versus Gaelic in Scotland, right? Okay, very good question. That's another thing that causes confusion when I tell people I speak Irish. Then they scratch their heads because they presume that's what I'm doing, like right this second, is they think I'm speaking Irish because it's an Irish accent on English. But in fact, the name of the language that is not English that we speak in Ireland is simply Irish. Now, Gaelic is something different. Gaelic is actually what I would call, what many people would call, the language spoken in Scotland. So that is Gaelic. Irish is the one we have in Ireland, and technically they are, I think the family as well. You might call them the Gaelic family, but generally I would just say Gaelic by itself, single word, is used in Scotland. You can also say Irish Gaelic if you want. Something funny that you guys might appreciate. Since I'm based in New York, I got a New York identification card here. And one thing they let you do with this is put a language that you speak on the card. So I don't know if you can make this out. There we go. Language preference, Gaelic, Irish. So that's like a funny little kind of, you've got your language preference given there on the card, so in emergencies people can contact you and talk to you in that language. So it's great. Okay, so Irish is, I would never call it Gaelic. However, in the language itself, the language is Gaelga. Okay, so you have that similar word, if that makes any sense. Hope that answers your question. Okay, so back on YouTube. I'm actually going to get rid of this stream of comments here because it's not coming up for me. Let me see which one it is, just so it's less distracting. There. So, yes, Omer over on YouTube asks, how can I learn Irish in a short time? Okay, so in a short time, well, Irish is because of the nature of the language that it's hard to get fully immersed in it unless you go to these adult language learning courses. I would never say you would learn a language in a short time. I would reach certain stages within specific times. So if you wanted to reach a conversational stage in a short time, where there's still more to learn, but you can have real conversations, then several things you could do. Firstly, try to get some basic exposure. The easiest by far, and anyone on YouTube, if you click above me to the top right, there's a little eye, and that eye links to several things, and one of them is a list of resources. So I've prepared a list of my favorite Irish language resources, and several of them that are free include Duolingo. So if you were learning, like if you're very squeezed for time, you don't have a lot of free time to get into language learning right now, then have this app on your phone and you can get a basic overview of a few components of how Irish works. And Duolingo is a fun app to use. Irish was one of their first big introductions of like, how would I say it, as like a non-major language. And so I would use Duolingo. Next, I would see if you can find online teachers. Now, this is trickier. I have actually myself, because my Irish would be kind of at the B1, B2 level. So it's B2 after I get some momentum and I'm speaking it again, so fluency. But I can't have like very technical conversations in the language. And then when I'm out of practice, it slips into B1, so lower intermediate. So I want to push it up. I want to get it to the C levels. And I've tried to find teachers online, and that's hard because the websites I tend to use, like italki, only have like one or two teachers who might be completely booked out, or they may be the same level as me because they're only helping beginners. So because of that, the best way is to try to find Irish communities and try to interact with people. And my favorite way for getting day-to-day interaction is Gaelga A1. I'm going to type this out for you guys. Or no, actually, do you know what? Gaelga A1. I'm typing it to Holly, and she's going to type it in the various chat windows. And this is because it's hard to kind of get used to Irish spelling from when you hear it the first time. I got another video about that coming out this weekend, by the way. So this is a Facebook page. If you search for it and join it, don't post on this page if you're a beginner, because the one rule is they only let people post when they're posting in Irish. Gaeilge 1 means only Irish. So this is a great Facebook page that has constant stream of memes and funny things getting shared, but the thing is, they're all os Gaeilge. They're all in Irish. But yeah, if you make Irish friends or see if there are local Irish communities. So right here in New York, there is an Irish Culture Centre, and they give Irish language lessons as well. So that's another option that I could totally go to myself to get my advanced level pushed up a notch. So yeah, I hope that answers your question about some suggestions on how you can learn Irish in a short time. I mean, that's more complicated. You would have to be doing it very intensively to do that. Okay, so let's see. Over on YouTube, we have some comments coming in Irish. Excellent. Okay, so DJD says, Vime sa réaltacht gonta meo an bhlín se chatte agus bhí an cideas mó gina daoine cant as Berla an lauróin na daoine in Nunanál Gaeilge no Berla an cideas mó don am. Alright, you guys follow that? Essentially, let me translate that for you. He said, he or she, just have an acronym to go by on this username. I was in the County Mayo Gaeltacht last year, and most people there were speaking in English. Do people in the Donegal areas speak Irish or English most of the time? So this is actually something I found that's pretty universal with any language. So you guys who know my story know I moved to Spain thinking I would speak Spanish like immediately and just it would happen naturally, but I gravitated towards English speakers, and I ended up only speaking English, even though I was physically living in Spain, and 6 months of it I was only speaking English until I changed my whole approach. So the same thing applies in the Gaeltacht regions of Ireland, that if you go there, and especially they have a lot of programs for teenagers who go there like for the summer, for instance. And if you go there and you really don't want to get immersed in the language, you're not, or you don't care so much, like you would like to, but it's just not something you're passionate about, then it's very easy for you to slip into English and just be like, okay, you know, I've done a couple of lessons, I've done my hour of like sitting in class and doing whatever I was doing there, so I'm going to just relax in English the rest of the day. And that is possible there, just the same way it is everywhere else. That would be for people visiting, because like I said, people who live there tend to actually speak the language. So in that case, I found that happened initially. There are groups of people, even in the Donegal Gaeltacht adult language courses, who just speak English all the time. So I would just kind of gravitate towards the people who are speaking more Irish. It's harder. It requires a lot more effort on your part, but it's great because you're getting that practice for real. So yeah, you like, it doesn't really matter whether it's in Mayo or Galway or Donegal. I don't think it's a question of which part of the country, more so than just human nature. I think people are lazy. I was lazy. I was very lazy when I moved to Spain first, and it's hard. You have to feel like an idiot and be making mistakes and have difficulty communicating. And a lot of people don't love doing that. These are the people visiting. So you just have to see, okay, here are the people who actually live here, and like, they love speaking the language. They're not going to discourage you. There's a great saying in Irish, is far Gaeilge bhriste no, or sorry, yeah, is far Gaeilge bhriste no Berla cliste. And that means broken Irish is better than smart English. Berla cliste. So that's like essentially saying that in those parts of Ireland, they prefer it if you speak Irish, even if your Irish is pretty bad. And when I went there first, even though I took Irish in school for a very embarrassing amount of time, I think 10 or 11 years, like pretty pathetic to, after all of that time, not be able to even say my name is. That's how little effort I put in school. I knew the name of grammatical terms, but I couldn't actually have a conversation, even a basic one. So getting into it, it was hard, but my teachers and the other people who were learning, who were eager to learn the language, and anyone else who was trying very hard, they kept using the language, and because of that, it worked out great. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, DJD. All right, we have back on Facebook. Jason asks, Benny, which Irish dialect do you speak? Is there one more common or useful if embarking on learning Irish? Okay, someone actually asked this question on YouTube. If you go to the YouTube video I uploaded this morning, 9 Reasons to Learn Irish, I actually gave a detailed answer to that. But very briefly, the Irish dialect I speak is the Ulster dialect. So that's the dialect spoken in Donegal in Northern Ireland. And because my hometown is very close to those, I decided to just go with that one. I also like the sound of it. But what is more useful and more common? It's harder because there's no standard Irish, but it tends to be based on a mixture of the different dialects. But if you had to choose one, I would probably go with Connemara Irish. This is the one they speak in Galway, simply because there are more speakers of it. You tend to hear that one more on the radio and TV shows, even though you will hear the other ones. The radio, TV, they're very good at giving a balance of the dialects, but ultimately there are more people speaking from Galway. Anyway, I gave actually more detailed answer if you look at my other video just uploaded this morning, 9 Reasons to Learn Irish. And I actually think if you're on YouTube, click the I in the corner, and I think I have a link to a playlist with all my Irish videos, and that should be on it. Okay, so Shanghai asks on YouTube, Hi Benny, still struggling with Irish orthography after quite a lot of study. Any help, or is it a matter of piling on more text with the audio till I've got it firmed up? Good question. I actually didn't know what orthography meant until a few weeks ago, and I learned that on a live video, which was embarrassing. But essentially, I am going to be answering that question this weekend. That is the next video I'm uploading. And the relationship between Irish spelling and Irish pronunciation is fun because it doesn't make sense to a lot of people. You see a name like Siobhan, and I mentioned this in this morning's video, and you're like, is that Siobhan? Siobhan? And it's actually Siobhan, which is very different. Believe it or not, it's actually not that hard to learn those rules. And I tried to demonstrate this in as simple a way as I could without using any technical explanations in a video that I will hopefully have on the YouTube channel tomorrow. So check that out. But yeah, you just see the rules, you learn them, and then that's it. And you get it consistently after that. Okay. So, okay, we have Sean O'Brien who asked on Facebook, Ben Nahara, will me lad on Shaw, e Bort Lorga, gus fi Cora Vogagin in Nailga, Conas talk horsey. So he says, Benny, my friend, I bumped into you in Port Lorga and we had a quick conversation in Irish. How are things? Things are great. Thanks, Sean. It's a small world, isn't it? That was a while ago for sure, because I've been only on brief visits to Ireland lately. But yeah, it's very funny seeing how people are doing. I do plan to actually push my Irish up a notch. I've just been so busy writing these books for you guys. And I'm hoping one of the next ones will be about Irish. But I would obviously have to reactivate and properly boost my level up a bit before I get into that. Okay, so any more questions from you guys? I just figured this might be fun because it's St. Patrick's Day. What people don't know, in Ireland, this entire week is designated as Seachtain na Gaeilge, or the Week of the Irish Language. And every year I try to do something. I try to upload a video or write a blog post about all of the things about Irish that I can help people kind of get into it. This week I wanted to have 3 videos online today, but I had to do lots of editing with them, so you'll see them this weekend instead. So make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel. Very easy URL for that. That's you can see just below me here, benny.tube. So I'll have some fun, 2 more fun videos. One is the how to pronounce Irish words. Another one is Irish English. So not actually about the Irish language, but about how us Irish people speak. And that's just a fun video for a fun day. Okay, next couple of questions. I'll only be doing this now for another 5 minutes, guys, just to give you a heads up if you want to get your last questions in. So Trisha on Facebook says, as a Collins, maybe I should speak the language, especially as Collinses. We're a famous Irish family. I think, yeah, definitely. Try to get in touch with your roots and, even learn a little bit, just a few phrases to start off with and see how it works for you. I actually was fascinated to see that there were a lot of people in the Gaeltacht who actually had no Irish heritage. Like, it kind of put me to shame that the first day in the Gaeltacht, I was approached by someone who was of Asian ethnicity. So this guy from China, if I remember right, and his Irish was pristine. And he did not have Irish ancestry. He just liked learning languages. And to see an Asian face speaking the whitest language you could probably imagine and kicking my ass at it, just totally doing the best job using like fun expressions and like even having Irish mannerisms as he did it, was very, very, very cool actually. So you don't just need Irish heritage. It's a fun thing for a lot of people. Okay, and Nilguri on YouTube says, Happy Paddy's Day, and all of the idiots who call it St. Patty's Day. It is not St. Patricia's Day. FFS! I agree, not St. Patricia's Day. So, yeah, because what happens is St. Patrick comes from the... so Patrick in Irish is Padraig. So P-A-D or A-I-G, and there's an accent in there as well. And so because of that, when you meet an Irish person whose name is Patrick, the nickname they tend to have is not Patty, but Paddy with a D, because of the kind of pull of the original Irish spelling on that. So yeah, if you're wondering, anybody, that's kind of a linguistic explanation for why it's Paddy's Day and not Patty's Day, because I know there's a T in Patrick and you might think, oh, they're obviously spelling that wrong or something, but no, it is definitely Paddy's Day with the 2 D's. Okay, maybe the last question or two. Harash says, do you think it takes 10,000 hours to reach native level? If not, what would you say is the more correct number of hours? That doesn't really feel relevant to learning Irish specifically. But if your question is about does it take 10,000 hours to reach native level in Irish, I've never loved that figure because it's based on research done for learning the language in academic situations. I actually wrote a blog post about that, analysing like the Foreign Language Institute, where they came up with that figure, and that's presuming you have classroom work in a group setting, so you're one person among many, where a teacher is talking at you, and then you go home and do your homework. So, like that is just not the best way to learn language. So it makes sense that you would need at least 10,000 hours to learn a language that way, because it's very inefficient. So you do need a lot of hours to do something when your method is inefficient. The better way to learn languages is to kind of get immersed and to throw yourself into it, to speak it a lot and make mistakes, especially initially, and to try and get one-on-one practice, which is a lot cheaper and easier when you do it online. So that's kind of what I would say, the 10,000 hours thing. I mean, it depends on your goals, what you want to do with the language. But I don't buy that for a second. Okay, and Silent Jaguar 68 on YouTube says, do you know more sites that have Irish tutors in addition to italki? Ooh, I've actually been looking for this one, because there are lots of Irish people very happy to give Irish lessons. In Dublin, I remember seeing loads of private Irish tutor lessons, because I used to be a mathematics tutor, so I was in the same kind of circles of putting my ads up all on the same walls as those guys to earn a bit of money near the exams. And there are lots of them giving Irish lessons, but that's physically in Dublin. So I kind of want to find all those people and say, you can get so many students if you just sign up to these sites. But I haven't seen a lot of them yet. So that's one thing that I might be able to be influenced, because I'm going to try and introduce language hacking Irish sometime. Still haven't confirmed if it's going to be in the next round of books that we do. But if I do that, they will be most popular in Ireland. They probably won't be as popular elsewhere, but they'll be most popular in Ireland. And a lot of Irish teachers might glance through it, and they would see italki recommended. So I would be sending those Irish teachers to italki as a result, because they'd see there are students who could be looking for them. So that's my little way of hopefully making a difference. And because you can do all the blogs and all the YouTube videos you like, but some people, they still get their information from Meet World. So that's why got to get a Dead Tree book and have it in those bookshops. And that's the way to get through the people. So yeah, in italki, just remember, you can also search for when they're not native speakers. I know there are Irish people in italki who have an intermediate level of Irish, and they can absolutely get you started speaking. Even if they wouldn't have an advanced level to have complex conversations. So if you're willing to kind of be more flexible with that, you'd be surprised. And you may even find some of the non-Irish people who have just been so passionate about the language that they got far on it. So yeah, those are just some quick answers to you guys. Thanks everyone for joining me today. Really appreciate it. Otherwise, I'm going to be live streaming a little bit more over the weekend and next week. So if you want to catch me there, let me actually just change the text here to show you. Go to beam.pro/polyglot and sign up for a free account with Beam, and go to this page here and follow me, because that's where I do my the majority of my live streaming. And I'm going to be trying to do that in other languages. There's a game, Mass Effect Andromeda, that I've been looking forward to, and I talked to the developers of that game, and they confirmed that it's in multiple languages, and they got voice actors to do the really good voice actors as well to do the other one or two of the languages. So yeah, I'm gonna be testing that out. It's definitely follow me on that site to see how that goes. And otherwise, thanks everyone for tuning in today. Make sure you are subscribed to my YouTube channel to see the other videos that I got coming up for you this weekend. And otherwise, I hope you guys have a wonderful St. Patrick's Day weekend. So, Lá Eile Pádraig Sonna give. So that's very happy St. Patrick's Day to all of you, essentially. Okay, so thanks everybody, and I will catch you in another live stream sometime soon.